Welcome to the Civic Circus Podcast. I am Spencer Duncan.
And I'm Johnathan Sublet.
Let's start the show.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you for being here, Jonathan. I appreciate you coming in, especially close to Christmas. You're my last show of the year, so see, we'll end it with an exclamation point.
Save the worst for last.
Well, the problem is, I know I had you weren't the first member of your family in here, so I brought your wife in first before you. So hopefully we're good there.
Well, according to the events of this morning, she's the best in the family anyway. This morning she got into leadership grade at Topeka in this class.
Oh, she did?
So we just found that out, and so super excited.
I could never get into leadership grade at Topeka, which makes me laugh now. But I'm like, what? I wasn't good enough.
Unfit. Oh man.
So it is what it is. I'm sure maybe someday they'll let me in and teach me a few things.
Yeah.
You're just now finishing on a Leadership Kansas, right?
Yes, an incredible journey. It was an incredible experience.
Yeah, it's great. So I was in the class of 2012, and then I was the state program chair in 2016. So so they let me lead. Which now nobody will get this unless they were in Leadership Kansas. That's fine, but they always talk don't miss the bus, and I did not miss the bus in 2012. I might have missed the bus once when I was the program chair, which is actually worse than when you miss it and you're the chair, not just a participant.
That is, and you should talk to Brian though, because this year as the program chair, his truck was hit by the charter bus.
Oh, good Lord. Well, you're in here in part today because one of your big things is SENT, and we'll talk about what SENT is here and what it's doing for the community. But let's start with, I usually like to go back to the beginning with people. You are not a native Topekan. This is your adopted home at this point.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about how you ended up in Topeka, Kansas, before we talk about kind of what you've developed and grown here in our city.
Yeah, so I am a native of Texas. Grew up in the South Oak Cliff area of Dallas, and
you're Cowboys fans. But
Cowboys,
it's legit because you're from there. So
Cowboys, Longhorns, Mavericks, Rangers. I am a glutton for punishment, and grew up there in a community a lot like the one I work in right now, and that's a part of what drew me to come to Topeka and be a part of the Hi-Crest neighborhood. And then from there, I got on a one-way Southwest Airline plane with that single ticket, having never stepped foot in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and went to college at the University of Tulsa. Okay. Majored in chemical engineering. From there, Dow Chemical hired me out of school. I started a chapter of the National Society of Black Engineers on the campus of University of Tulsa. They interviewed me at the national conference my senior year. 9/11 happened. And from there, moved down to the Gulf Coast where I started working as a chemical engineer, started Bible college about a couple of months after that, went to seminary, was doing work bivocational, and then eventually kind of made the swap all the way over full-time ministry, raised missionary support. Working in the neighborhood like Hi-Crest. I walked away from my engineering. I reduced my cost of living. I said I wanted to make the same amount that a teacher in my neighborhood would make. And I raised that amount of support, monthly support from outside donors. And I was doing work full-time, no longer an engineer. And then I met this pretty young Kansas lady on eHarmony. We dated long distance, and then she ended up moving down to live with me. We started fostering 3 young ones that became our adopted kids after we got to Kansas, but a hurricane hit.
Oh.
Yeah. 2 things happened. One, a hurricane hit, and right before the hurricane hit, one of the people I regarded as one of my best friends in the world stole all the money from my church plant. That's tough. And I don't always share that, but I think it's important because I think it's important for people to see how even the tragedies in your life have purpose. If it wasn't for that, I would have never even responded to the phone call that called me. Matter of fact, the phone call I got from Topeka was this. we're doing this work in this neighborhood. We've kind of put out fillers amongst all of our partners across the country that we knew that might know someone who could come do this work. We've been told about you, but we've also been told you'll never leave Texas. And I was like, you're correct. I'm never leaving Texas. And my wife was like, I think you should listen. And I was young in my marriage, and I could either hold to my stance and use up a lot of credits, or I could keep everybody in the house happy. Here I am.
We only promised to listen, but obviously you liked what you heard. I mean,
yes.
Obviously connected with you when you started the conversation.
Yeah, here's the deal. Here's what sealed it. Because when I did all the stuff that we talked about all the time, just in our offline conversations. Yeah. And so I knew, I would say 80% of what the neighborhood needed. Because the 20%, you have to have interaction with the people. And I said, this is going to sound strange coming from a pastor, dealing with the event that happened in Texas, it grew me more jaded towards church people.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right? And so when a church was interviewing, I was actually looking for a career to go back into corporate. Yeah. I was like, I'm done with church people. Church people are fickle. I gave up everything to do this, and then they stole my money. I am done. And so when they got ready to bring me up, I said, I don't want to talk to any church people. I only want to talk to people in the neighborhood. I want to talk to every school principal. I want to talk to other organizations. I want to talk to other pastors in the neighborhood. And every time I went in the room, people start crying. As I start sharing the vision of what the neighborhood could be, people start crying. And the last day I was here, they had me do two things. One, they wanted me to teach a group of students that they had started to gather already at Avondale East, about, this group of students they were working with every week. And that night I taught, and like 15 of them said they either stepped across the line of faith or wanted to get baptized.
I'm like, yeah. Like, I'm trying to get away from
Then my last night in the neighborhood, I was staying with someone that lived in the neighborhood, and there was a knock at the door. There was 3 young African-American teenage boys. And they were negotiating with the person I was staying with. He was trying to tell them, I got company. You can't come in. They were like, I need some food. I'm hungry. He lets them in. While they're sitting there at the table, I start asking them their story. And then it went something like this. I said, have you ever been to a museum? And they said, yeah. I said, well, I don't know about you. Last time I went to a museum, I didn't think everything was in there. It was so hot. As a matter of fact, some of the things were kind of ugly. And they started laughing. And they said, I agree. I said, but here's the deal. The things in that museum are not valued by what I think of them, but they're valued by who made them. And I said, I know I just met you, but I love you. And you were made by infinite and holy God. And therefore you have infinite dignity, value, and worth. I said, I don't know if I'm going to take this job or not, but here's my card. Here's my email. Here's my cell phone number. Whenever you decide what you want to do in life, you contact me, and I'm going to use everything at my disposal to help you achieve that. And they started to cry at the table. They finished eating their pizza. I prayed with them. They left. And my host said, hey, I don't know if they've ever had another adult male tell them that he loves them. I tell my wife this story. She said, I thought you said you weren't going to Topeka. I said, I'm not. She said, I think we're moving to Topeka. So that was the linchpin.
Yeah. So you got here.
Yeah.
And you walked into a very different situation than what it is today.
Yes.
In terms of the growth and the changes and the so let's talk about that evolution. Because that was how many years ago now?
There was almost I moved up in December of 2017.
Okay.
That's when I hit town. My kids couldn't. My wife and kids couldn't come with me because we didn't have a release from the state of Texas to bring foster kids out. So, kudos to the mayor at that time, who worked with the governor of our state and the judges and governor in Texas
to get them to bring them here.
Let them bring them here. So that was just they came several months later, but I walked in.
So we're looking at almost 8 years now. We're hitting the 8 year.
We're hitting the 8 year mark.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that it's only been 8 years.
Yeah.
I had 2 conditions to take the job. One, I had to be able to start SENT, which is the non-religious community development nonprofit, and it's not a bait and switch. It is non-religious.
Right.
And then 2, I had to live in the neighborhood. Yeah. I said there's a difference between saying I believe that your neighborhood can change and in saying I believe our community can change. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I had to make sure that when the water was out, when there was a shooting or whatever else, it affected my family just like all the other families that I was there with. And then I knew that because of my same deal that I'm still in therapy. I still go and see a therapist. The healing that is taking place in my life, some other people had experienced that same hurt with church people. And so no matter what they needed, if it was offered by a church, they would never accept it. Mm-hmm. But we believe that people have infinite dignity, value, and worth, whether they live like us, believe like us, or even like us or not. Mm-hmm. And so I needed a space where I could walk with people and I could say, we could disagree on my religious beliefs, and I'm still gonna love you and walk and journey with you. And that's where we created SENT.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. That was one of your criteria. Let me create it. What has the vision for what? And we'll talk about what SENT is today. But is it different? Has it changed from what you envisioned it originally to what it is now, or has it kind of grown on the path you were looking for?
It's grown on. So it's grown so much faster.
Yeah.
So much. Like even now, it's hard for me to believe that I get to be a part of the stuff that we do.
Yeah. And let's give people the recap of what that is. So the people are like, what the hell is SENT if they've never heard of it? So they know what we're talking about and what SENT's out there, what it is and what it's doing right now.
SENT is a holistic, non-religious community development nonprofit. I'm gonna start at the beginning. Our first program was what I call a summer stream program. Science, technology, reading, engineering, arts, mathematics. Why? Because remember, church brought me in.
Right.
Good-hearted, best of intentions, everything. Big kudos to that group who brought me in, who's just so generous in every kind of way. Great. I know there's different things out there, but I'll on this platform, I want to say how thankful I am and how generous they are. And they were doing like kind of a summer-long vacation Bible school.
Okay.
Before I got there.
Yeah, to kind of help fill some summer gaps, take care of kids.
Yeah, because they needed it. Yeah. And they were seeing all these kids. And you have to, if you're going to do a program in a neighborhood like ours, it has to be from really 4 to 18. Yeah. Because the older kids,
they need somewhere to go to.
The older kids are babysitting the younger kids because of lack of childcare and everything else. And all the numbers are out there, right? Yep. So if you want the older kids to come, you have to have a space for the younger kids. And that creates a huge problem for a lot of programs. And so then you have to be trauma-informed because there's so many things that go into it. So this program, they were doing vacation Bible schools. And I asked them, I said, is that what the neighborhood wanted? And they were like, well, everybody enjoys it. And I said, but is that what the neighborhood really needs? I said, if you I looked up the schools in my neighborhood. I said, we're experiencing summer slide, right? Kids are regressing over the summer because they don't have the money to plug into the programs.
Yeah.
And I said, maybe we can tweak the summer deal. Because I said, look, I'm also looking at just what I'm seeing going through the neighborhood. There's enough vacation Bible schools out there that we can attend a different vacation Bible school
every week.
Every week, right? And fill my calendar. But that's not what they need. So we designed this program where they were doing 3D computer programming, making pasta from scratch, digital photography. Black Hawk helicopters were landing on the field behind Avondale East. I mean, totally reading, pre-assessments, reading programs over the summer, all these different things, Lego robotics, all these involved 200 to 250 kids the 2 summers we ran it. COVID really killed that.
Yeah.
But then we wanted to do housing. The first house we got in the neighborhood was just a kind of we got a donated house, and we rehabbed it. It wasn't really kind of how we really wanted to fully
Right.
rehab it, but we did what we could with what we
Yeah,
had.
It was your first one.
Yes. And then we bought a property. A property came on sale for it was an auction that came up. We went to the auction and bought a house for $1,000 across the street from what was once the illegal dumping ground that became the park and different things of that nature. And we thought we were going to rehab it because at that point we didn't really have a plan to build houses. We had
a rehab.
We were just going to rehab everything we did.
At least you got the frame and you can work from there.
Here's where the switches happen, and you have to be flexible. We thought at that point we were going to build a crew of men and women that we trained on how to rehab houses. The reason that was in my mind is because my friends who do work in North Tulsa, I went to college with, that was what they were doing, and I had learned from their model. And so I was like, that's what we're going to do.
It's a job skill, and they can translate to them to other things if they need to move forward.
Yeah. What I saw was how much capital that took to do that. And I realized this. If I build my own construction crew, then even when I get grant dollars, all that money comes into my organization. It kind of revolves in my organization. If I use local contractors and local businesses as much as I can, right? Then that money flows through and back and gets reinvested back into the community. Yeah. And so that was one of the things that grew over time. And so, but we built that first house. We built it for 154, sold it for 110. Right? First house built in the neighborhood in over 60 years.
Yeah, which is amazing.
It was amazing. Transformed the house next to it. And before we knew it, we had transformed 3 out of the 5 houses across from the park. Today, we've done 32 housing projects with a 231 housing unit development that's in process on Fremont Hill. We have some projects going in other cities now that's on the horizon. We got the next plan phase. We're building 4 now. We built Topeka's first net zero house.
Yep.
We're building 4 more net zero houses right now. The only, as far as
what net zero is.
So net zero is a house that produces as much energy as it uses, which is incredible because right now they say that 3/4 of the homes in Topeka are unaffordable. They're out of reach. 46% of those homes are also utility burdened, right? Yep. So you add that on top of it. Within my neighborhood, 24% of the people spend 50% or more of their income on just rent alone.
Rent, utilities.
Yeah. So by having that house, someone living in that house can see or the base rate.
Yeah.
Base rate.
Yeah, they charge that base rate.
The base rate, 2/3 of the year. Yeah. That's it. That's it. And so that we can't fix the cost of materials and the cost of labor and all that kind of stuff. We can't do that. But if we can lower the cost of living in some ways for families, then we can help affordability.
Yeah.
So that was important. We took that back. Most affordable houses that you see no garage. Why is that? No. $30,000. That's crazy. $30,000 for a garage.
For a room for a car.
But these 4 net zeros we're building now have 1.5 car garages on them. So a lot of times when people drive through a neighborhood, they'll say, people are not taking care of their yards.
Yeah.
Then you look in the houses, whether they're rentals or whatever else, have no garages, no sheds.
Yeah, there's nowhere to put stuff.
So if I spend the little money I have in an under-resourced neighborhood to buy lawn equipment, but it's going to be in the elements all the time and get ruined, that seems like a waste of money for my family. Yeah. And if I don't have those tools, then I have to pay someone every time I want that to be done, which is now
more money. Now
more
new
money.
Cost. Yeah.
We're fighting all this.
Yeah.
So that's housing. We got a lot of stuff going on that. Something I want to roll out for you.
Yeah.
I believe housing, when I say housing first, I truly mean that, and we believe it's tied to everything else. Yep. Here in January, I don't know when this is going to hit. Here in January, we're going to roll out that we have developed a $60,000 fund where teachers at Ross, Eisenhower, Highland Park Central, and Avondale Academy, those are our focus schools for SENT, they'll be eligible for $5,000 in down payment and closing costs on a SENT home if they remain at their schools for 5 years. If they leave those schools
Pay you
earlier,
back 5,000.
they'll, on a graduated rate, have to pay it back depending on how long they're there.
Sure.
But we're trying to increase teacher tenure and get more teachers to live in our community, kind of replicating what we've been seeing. And so that's something that we'll be rolling out.
It helps them invest in homes on top of that if they haven't been able to.
Yes, and I'm trying to help you out in your new position and getting more homes on the tax roll to help close some of this deficit.
And we just need more homes. I mean, part of the reason we can't grow is because we got no place for people to live.
Yes.
So it really is it's the most fundamental of problems.
Yes. And it's affecting our education system. So that's housing. We had SENT Prep at one time. We used to partner with Kennedy Academy. During COVID, sadly, they decided they were going to close. That was the only child care in the neighborhood. We took that over for a couple of years, grew the capacity, and then was able to partner with a wonderful small business owner, Melissa Patterson, here in the community, and sell that facility to her now. And because child care is not our thing.
Right. Because it is really its own. The people who are great at it, thank you. But for the rest of us to try to do it, you got to do it right. You got to take care of those kids. There's rules, there's regulations, there's a lot to it.
And you got to know your lane. So, for instance, SENT has a small number of rentals, but our heart is not to rent houses. It's to sell homes. THA manages our rentals. Right? And so we do that because that's not our lane. So I'm really big on us running in our lane. So we had that, but now we have workforce development, right? We have gentlemen from the Working Men of Christ that are with us. They're working for us 20 hours a week. They also get all of our wraparound supports, massage therapy, chiropractic support, neighbor advocacy, what a lot of people call case management, food support, mental health, substance use, also access to our clinic for health, for physical health, Southside Wellness Clinic. And so they get all those wraparound supports as a part of that. We also will have, starting in January, 2 young ladies as a part of a pilot program who will be certified community health workers who are now residents at Topeka correctional facilities who will be working for us on work release, get all the same wraparound supports I just mentioned, and then we'll help them transition out. We have senior citizens that are with us. They get all those wraparound supports, helping them for their next phase. So that's a part of it. And it goes cross-sector on some things. We also have, as a part of our education, just more of our food education pieces and stuff like that. Then community health and wellness, which is the big boy. Mental health, we serve 19 different Kansas cities and towns. If you make 50% or less of the AMI, we give you 6 sessions for free. Field justice scale all the way down to $10 an hour. It's incredible right now between mental health and our substance use disorder department. For every 1.5 people who inquire about mental health services, we're seeing one person connected to a therapist and be ready to schedule within a week. That's pretty good. And so we also have like the substance use that I talked about. We have our Southside Wellness Clinic that does holistic health, that does labs, all the different things around there. A Well Women's Exam, a 10 to 18-month maternal health program where the women get all the things I mentioned about the wraparound supports. It is seeing phenomenal results. We just delivered a report to KDHE on it. We're really seeing some people that were maybe in danger because they were unsheltered or had gestational diabetes because of pregnancy. See all those things kind of come back. Incredible. Mailboxes for the unsheltered.
That's a big issue.
Yes. A client choice pantry that when we're running at full capacity, 600 families a month and from 38 different zip codes across the county. And it's just tremendous. We're spending 3.7 cents per pound of food this year. The average pantry, they say, spends around $1.97 per pound of food. So we're like really efficient at how we're using it, but that's like our entryway into connecting with everything else.
All the other services.
Yes. And so we're seeing these tremendous things happen with that. And then we have massage therapy in the building, chiropractic services in the building, trauma-informed occupational therapy services in the building. Vallejo has a spot to do telehealth in the building with us. Speech therapy screenings will start. And then we have different community partners that are in there throughout the time so that when people are signed up, we're one of the 2 organizations in the whole state that can sign up people for SNAP, through text message alone. We serve 6 of the 9 regions of the state right now through that service, and so just on and on and on. There's just a tremendous amount of stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing how many different avenues it now offers. So going back to that day though, when you envisioned it and you wrote it down, you sat down on that table and you said, "All right, this is what I want to do." I imagine some of this wasn't in that original. I mean,
so I didn't know
you had a general vision, I'm sure, and it kind of had to grow. But
yeah, and so like even like this year alone, this school year alone, we'll spend $200,000 to $250,000 in our target schools. Okay, investing in our target schools, and my original vision for that was I would have one staff person on each of those campuses.
yeah,
But now we have a whole team of people going into these campuses, and so like it's grown. The medical clinic, I got to tell you, that wasn't a part of it.
yeah,
I didn't. That wasn't part that I really saw happening, and that it happened, right? And so it was like, okay, substance use. I saw mental health. We knew mental health. Substance use happened, and a lot of these things happen like this. We do a lot of surveys of the community. And so we use our big events to do surveys of the community. We ask them, like, it's always just 5 questions. That's it. And 4 of them are multiple choice. The last one is open-ended. And we always ask, what do you want to see? And then when they say that, like, my job on staff, here's my job on staff, is to go get it. Yeah. Whatever it is to go get it. And I spend every day, all day, and my team will tell you this, like, just thinking of creative ways to partner with people to go get it. That's all I do.
Yeah.
And like I'm a Six Sigma black belt and Six Sigma green belt project leader certified. And so I learned how to lead projects and that you could lead projects without having to be the subject matter expert on them. And so that's all I've done is I know how to like collect data and interpret data and use data and tie it with stories and build systems. So that has been my role in this, is to help build systems.
Which I think is a key to a lot of things that people get bogged down in.
Yeah.
The idea that, I have to be actively either an expert or a professional or no. And to your point, no, I have to know how to put the right people together and then let them do their thing. And if they're not doing it the way we envision, we'll course correct that. But to your point, you couldn't have done all this if you had just said, I have to be in charge of every single piece of this every day.
No. And it was like the studio. We have a fully functioning audio video podcast studio in the building. That's because Braille came on staff.
Yeah.
We have a free community party room, right? That's because we saw the isolation numbers from COVID. Also because we were partnering with Deb Jorgensen, who was leading Young Lives at the time, and the young pregnant young ladies that she was working with at Highland Park didn't have a place to throw baby showers. Yeah. So I went out and raised money. We have an investment club for 6th to 12th grade students. Every kid is investing hands-on money. Every kid gets a scholarship to college, tech school, or their own investment account if they're going directly into the workforce. Some kids already have functioning businesses. Yeah. And that was just a function of me being in the neighborhood and seeing like, we gotta up the earning potential. Like there's a gap here. So, and it's just seeing that, taking in the data and then saying, okay, I don't truly know this. To help start that investment club, I was on the United Way board with a college student at Washburn that was in finance, and I like reached out to him. I was like, "Hey, I got this gap in my neighborhood. Are you interested in helping me with this?" You know what? Now he lives in Wichita, and he still drives back to be a part of the program.
That's cool.
So
now the flip side is you also have to know when to say no. So that you don't overextend what you've got, and so that you can build on what you have. So I'm sure there's some things down the road you'd love to do, but right now you're focused on what you can sustain, because sustainability is the key to a lot of these programs.
So we have built a model where we try to have all our programs be self-sustainable within 2 years. I couldn't build the traditional nonprofit donor-heavy model. I'm in one of the most under-resourced neighborhoods in all of America. I didn't want to,
which is 2 issues. One we don't like to talk about. One we do talk about. A, the people in that neighborhood. Nobody there can write you a big check, right?
Yes.
And the second thing is the problem. The one people don't want to talk about is the problem of getting other people who don't live in those neighborhoods to actually care about those neighborhoods and want to invest in them. that can happen eventually, but it isn't just doesn't just happen.
But it was
takes
key.
getting out right. That's what I mean. So
Yeah.
making the case for that and showing them why it does matter. And hey, you know this neighborhood that's been ignored forever. You know, it took us. No one had built a damn house here in decades. You know, hey, we're here and we need your help.
I'm about to say something. I want you to know he didn't solicit this. Okay, okay. Mayor Padilla, when he was Councilman Padilla,
Yeah.
when I first came, I went to him with some of the vision. He's like, Johnathan, I need you to do something to get the NIA reinvigorated. Monique Gaudet was like, hey, there's some funds available, but they're only available through the NIA. Good thing I lived in the neighborhood. So a key part of my pitch to other people is like, if you really care, you want to be a part of this, consider moving into the neighborhood. You don't have to live here, but consider doing it. And enough people bought in and moved in. So what happened for the first couple of years, I tell people I had the ministry of yes. Yeah. I would go to the NIA meetings and they would say they wanted something. And I would say, yes.
Yeah.
The schools, they would say they needed this. And I would say, yes. Yeah. And after enough time, we gained enough trust where they start saying, hold up. Before we make this decision, what do y'all guys think?
Yep.
The last 2 years we've brought in, or 3 years, we brought in over $2 million worth of resources into our community through Dreams, right? Some of that improvement to housing and stuff that has happened in our neighborhood didn't even flow through SENT. It went straight through the NIA and made available. And I keep saying, like, if you care about some of these neighborhoods, move back in and put some scratch in the game, and then help the NIAs write some of those grants and stuff like that. And that's been a key part. So right now we're partnering. We're getting ready to move. We're starting to move out. Our next set of bills, which we hope is a group of 15 houses, will include some houses in the Highland Park Central NIA and one in Monroe. And so we're partnering with the NIA to teach them what we've learned and to share with that and how they can use the processes and systems that exist already to help improve. And help improve their neighborhoods. We're partnering with the churches in those neighborhoods to say, we're gonna share everything we know and what we've learned with you so that you can repeat this. And a lot of times people come to y'all and they come with their fists balled up and mad, but you will see they haven't utilized what's already available. And I think that's a part of building the trust and the momentum behind it. If I'm gonna come to you, I'm gonna study your numbers. When it comes to goals for my neighborhood, I didn't set new ones. The city of Topeka had been doing neighborhood health mapping since the year 2000. And so from the beginning, those were my goals. When it came to goals for housing, the city of Topeka in 2020 did a housing study. And so I regularly bring up those and say, these are our goals for housing.
Stuff, right? It's right there. Help me out.
Y'all already paid for the study.
Right.
And so,
right.
And so I just think educating yourself, studying the CIP plan, studying those things and then saying, I'm going to use what's there and show that my interest is not just for my own personal gain and my own personal goals, but it's got to be good for everybody.
So the other hat you wear is at Fellowship Hi-Crest.
Yes.
So you talked about how the fact you were ready to jump into corporate back. You're like, I'm out. You didn't lose your faith, but you lost your faith in the institution.
Yes.
More, not your faith itself. So at what point does that, so you came up here through the church, but I'm assuming at some point you had to get that faith back a little bit in the people and the institution as opposed to just your own, hey, church is where I do fit and it is going to be okay. And I don't need to go back and work for Dow or whoever again, right? There had to be a moment where you were able to slide back into that a little easier.
Well, first of all, you had to mourn what was lost, right? I had given up my dream home to move into those apartments where I mentored those kids down in my neighborhood in Freeport. I had sold almost everything I owned to be able to fit into that apartment. And it took some immediate therapy and some different things. And even, I'm going to tell you this, truthfully, even when I got here, I was still struggling. That's why I have a semicolon on my wrist. And I was still really struggling. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I guess this is what you want me to do. I'll do it, right? But when you're injured, um, everything that happens can remind you of what caused you pain.
Yep.
And so I'm glad on two fronts. It's a different side of the coin. My wife is a therapist, but she never tried to be my therapist.
Yeah, and that probably wouldn't have worked either.
No.
You got to be wife and husband and not trying to do therapy on each other all the time.
Yes. She never tried to be my therapist. And but she saw her training. If it wasn't for her seeing some things that was triggering for her, I wouldn't be here. Yeah. And she saw some stuff, and she immediately started doing things to protect me from myself. And she realized she knew how to find someone who was equipped to walk with me. Yeah. So, and through that healing, like I have been in this healing process of loving God's people, but because of what I've went through, I hold all of it with an open hand.
Because one doesn't happen without the other.
Yeah.
And you're not able to do what you've done at SENT unless you'd found some of that peace and reconciliation and be able to still do what you do at the church, you know.
And it's a part of it, right? Like, here's what we've seen, even in our small church. Last year we had 52 baptisms, and this year in a couple Sundays we might end up being at the same number or right up under it. Like we're close to 50 baptisms already. Like again, 2 years in a row kind of deal. And so we're seeing this some crazy things happen. And I would be lying if I told you, oh yeah, I saw all of it laying out just like this. Like, no, I didn't. Because the study that Lifeway did, I actually got to be a part of the rolling out of the results. This is before I moved up here. They did it across Mexico, United States, and Canada. The average church in a neighborhood like mine takes 10 years to become self-sustaining. But we're non-denominational, but the average denomination gives you 3 years of support. So what it does is it kills a lot of urban church because they only get 3 years of support when they needed 10 years.
Yeah.
Because of the same deals of they think that, okay, you're going to have a lot of middle-class families that join your church. The numbers are going to grow. They're going to have money to give. They're going to tithe. They're going to all that kind of stuff. And then you're going to be self-sustaining. You don't need us. Right. That's not my reality. Yeah. And so, yeah.
So a couple last things before I always tell every guest we flip it. Have you flip it a little on me, the spotlight. But these are kind of connected. But let's first tell people who are hearing this. Lots of people do know what you're doing. A lot of people don't. That's why I do this. Is like, so if I'm out there in Topeka, how can I help what you're trying to do in Hi-Crest and what SENT's trying to do for all the neighborhoods around there?
One, this year we came up with this incredible model where people can actually invest in affordable housing in a renewable way and get a cash return. So you can talk to me about that. You reach out, you can go to our website, senttopeka.com. I always send people there, especially our video page where you see kind of overviews of all of our different areas and different things of that nature. You can come volunteer. We have committees. Also, we're looking for board members. And so we need some people in the real estate sector, some people in the financial sector, different things of that nature, the legal sector, definitely to join our board. And so we're looking for some additional board members. And we also have committees. So if you say, I'm not ready for a board, but I want to I'm interested in mental health, I'm interested in some of these physical health things, maternal health, holistic health, food insecurity, you can be a part of that. And we're doing some really innovative things right now. So we're looking at food as medicine right now and delivering actually food boxes to people's doors as their prescription for diabetes, hypertension, different things of that nature. So there's a lot of possibilities around that. If you're interested in housing, like I said, not only giving, but as we look at more developments, if you're a bank and like one of the pieces of property that we're going to build on next was a local bank in Vista, shout out Liz, that said, we've been mowing this property and paying taxes on it for years.
Right.
That we had to get from somebody.
Yeah.
Do you want to build a house on it? And like, Yeah, that's how we'll build a house on it because they just lowered my cost to build, right? So if you're out there and you're just holding a piece of property, we'll write you a tax receipt and we'll help a family get into that house.
Yeah, because we do have a lot of those properties, and it's kind of maddening. And I get it, but I'm like, let's help you make it productive and take it so you're not writing that check every year to mow a piece of land you don't know what the heck you're gonna do with. So
yes, so those are different ways I would always look at. There's different smaller ways to donate, and then like even we have a couple of really large events every year that are help make place, and so those are different things. And then just reach out to partner. Like Spencer said, we don't say yes to everything because we'll say some things are not in our wheelhouse. Yeah. Like we don't give out toys to kids at Christmas. Yeah. We do at our Pictures with Santa event have a store where kids get to pick out gifts for their caregivers and wrap those. Yeah. And so people think it's strange when I turn down gifts for kids and say, no, that's not what we do. Yeah. That's not what
programs that do. Happy to send you to them.
Yes.
Support them.
So yeah.
All right. So I tell people this is not a public relations program. All right. And
yeah.
I caveat that. So this last kind of question is talk about where the city has, well, you can start with where we've been helpful, but where have we failed what you're trying to do at times in terms of trying to move some of the stuff you want to forward as a city in terms of actual government city support, not the people in the city. I'm talking City Hall itself.
You about to get me in trouble, man. Here's the deal. So I'm gonna start by saying this. The first thing we did to help walk beside the Hi-Crest neighborhood, I told everybody on my team, and you can go check. If anything bad happens in the neighborhood, we don't post it on social media. Yeah. You'll never see it. It don't mean that we don't address it.
No.
It's just we're not going to proliferate that. Yeah. And even when things have happened with me in local government, my policy has always been to not broadcast those because I still want to leave the door open to make it easy to repair whatever got broken in that. Yeah.
I always remind people, though, there's a difference between a bitch session and a constructive conversation like, hey, can you do better here? I'm not totally mad at you. You need to do better to help me, And,
yes.
And I think sometimes that's the distinction.
Yeah, and so I here's a couple things I see that can happen. We got to get our code enforcement department some help. Yeah. As much as I'm working,
it's 2 steps forward, 12 steps back, not even 3.
Man, look, and here's my part. I'm always trying to look at it from both sides. Right now, there's this huge push for this landlord registry list. Yeah. And don't beat up. We got to hold people accountable, but don't beat up on all landlords and then ask them for a donation later on.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. If we're gonna do this, and I'm like, hey, don't put a whole bunch of fine or like just excess cost on the landlords that they're just gonna put on the tenants. Yeah. I do think we should have a list to know who owns the house. Okay. If we're gonna do that, then I need some escalating fines on these tenants and these code violations, and I need it like to move quicker on making them comply. Like getting your trash can back from the curb. Yeah. That's easy. That's not a hard thing. Yep. If you can walk trash out there, you can also pull your trash can back. Cleaning up your front yard. And so look, if we're gonna hold landlords accountable, we also have to hold tenants accountable.
So there are 2 cities in Kansas. And talk about landlord registry controversy. This would be a next level, but I think it's a worthwhile who do have some laws in place that hold the tenants responsible. One of them's I think along with the landlord, and one is you do something with them first before you elevate it to the landlord. And it's interesting. I think it's worth looking into to see what the tenant's responsibility is within that. To your point, within that structure.
Yeah. So code enforcement. Other thing is, sometimes I'm out here competing for grants as a solo small organization, which we keep doubling in size. Goodness.
You're still small, though. In the grand scheme of things, we're still small from that perspective.
We're still small. And I'm competing solo against other municipalities who are grouping nonprofits to apply and then letting the nonprofits be sub-grantees. Okay. And we're always losing. Yeah. But look, there's people coming from all over the country to see our model and over the state. And they say, we've never seen a family resource center that has all the stuff you have in one spot. We won Shawnee County Health Department's Organization of the Year this year. Yeah. And we'll get 0 City of Topeka social service dollars next year. Yeah. Yeah. Right now, there's a push to create a resource hub, a one-stop shop resource hub. Yep. If things continue to go the way they're going, there's going to be an ask for all resources to totally recreate something that's partially that could be piloted and learned from it. And halfway done. And we can put money into documenting and studying that with partners like CPPR or KHI. And we can learn and go a long ways with that, but we're not doing it. And then some innovative ways of just using like some of our funds in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and different things. I think we're moving toward those things, but a lot of times we're moving slower. I'll give you a example. Then I'll let you go.
No, you're good.
Recently, both the city of Manhattan and the city of Lawrence have sent contingents over to learn from us. Okay. And then I just a week before this taping was able to go, was asked again to come out to Manhattan. I'm working with some people in Lawrence. The city of Lawrence brought over a contingent. The next day, they told me every resource that was available for me if I would come and do projects in Lawrence. Oh, in Lawrence, yeah. I have not had that from the city of Topeka. Interesting. The programs that I've had to find out, I've had to dig and study and figure it out on my own. And even seeing the work that we're doing, there's not this big push to say, how do we scale and replicate this? Because that's really our heart, is to scale and replicate it.
Right.
We came here for Leadership Topeka, and really nothing on the south or east side of town was highlighted at all. We went to Mars, but we didn't.
Right, but that doesn't really count. God bless Mars; they're awesome. Stay here, Mars. But to your point, that's not showing what you're talking about.
You as an alumni, as an alumni of Leadership Kansas, know where I'm coming from, because when every city you go to likes to spotlight and highlight what's good or whatever, and I kept waiting. I kept like, okay. Whoo, man, like when they get to Topeka, they're going to do it. Now, some of my classmates actually did come over before the session began to come see. Because I invited them over through our group chat kind of deal. But I am on board with the revitalization of downtown. I am on board with the revitalization of Topeka Boulevard. What I say is going to hurt us, though, is that we're going to put so much energy there that the new companies and stuff that come in, there's going to be a vacuum. Yeah. And so they're going to be resource rich, and they're going to buy up all the land around, and they're going to develop it before those of us who live can ever even approach doing that. And so I just think we have to think proactively now. I got a question for you when it gets to that point.
Yeah, well, we're there. I mean, those are all fair issues, and so one or two of those we've talked about before here. One of those we haven't, and I think, and I've told you before, that's the kind of stuff we have to keep hearing, whether we want to or not, because that's how we actually make some real changes.
The part of Topeka that's closest to the new Panasonic plant, is Southeast Topeka.
I know.
And we have to do some development on the side, or all that housing and everything else is going to go to Kansas City.
Right, which is silly because people will make that drive for what the affordability is here now versus what it is costing, which they almost can't afford. And that plant's paying decent wages. They still can't afford a home up in that area. They're looking for everywhere within that 45-minute up the highway drive, including that corner of Southeast Topeka.
And one of the things I've said is, like, even with the Fremont Hill development, I've said, hey, I got some land set aside for commercial. And I was like, I just want some help develop. And I'll have a low-cost land lease for the person. And they're like, man, that's a great idea. Go out and find it. And I'm like, I shouldn't be working on this alone. Right. This is going to help the expansion and everybody, right? Yeah. And so, like, I think just last night, the the commission in Wichita passed an initiative put forward by a conglomerate called Wichita Forward, where they added a 1 cent or 1% sales tax.
Yeah, they're looking. Yeah, yep, I saw that.
A 1% sales tax that they think that over the next, if I'm remembering the numbers right, over the next 7 years will produce $850 million that will flow back to that 50 group of 50 nonprofits to help close the gap on some of the big issues that we're always scrounging money for.
Right.
But it's got to go to vote. They just gave permission. Now it's going to cost $150,000 for the special elections. How am I remembering all these numbers? I just read the article, but these are the kind of things I geek out on. And I was like, I like that. That's novel. Yeah. Would Topeka ever consider?
Well, and because I believe this, I say it and I believe it. And you kind of hint to it. We don't need to recreate. We love to have these conversations about let's recreate this. Stop it. I'm the capital city. I have groups doing all this work. What they need are more resources. And so to your point, and that's I think what they're figuring out in Wichita is great. We're going to create this revenue, and then we're going to give it to the groups who are already doing the work, so that as I'm trying to improve housing and decrease homelessness and address some of our mental health and addiction issues, the groups already doing it now will have more of the resources they need to take the burden off the rest of us, so that the government can do what it's supposed to, roads, and let the groups who are experts in the field do that work on the ground.
Yes, and they said it wouldn't, because it's a sales tax, it wouldn't increase the property taxes, which is key, right? People blame SENT all the time. We've done, out of those 32 housing projects, we've done 5 new builds maybe. And people are like, y'all are raising the property taxes. That is...
Well, and
that is crazy.
You know this, and I tell this people all the time, and you've built some of the homes in that 170, 180 range, but that's a cheap house these days, people, and that may not be right, and that may be awful, and we all agree that's too damn expensive, but the cost of goods is the cost of goods right now, and so building those homes, by virtue of the fact of what things cost to build a basic home that fits that neighborhood. We don't control the property valuations. It's by nature of the beast. That's what's going to happen. But it's nobody's fault. It's what it costs to build a house today.
And if you were to go, when you travel for Leadership Kansas, you go to all these different regions of Kansas, and you see what they sell for $295.
Oh yeah, it's nuts.
$300. And you go, people that go to the housing conference, KHRC. You'll see the prices of what they're building affordable houses for, and then you come back and you see the prices that we're saying, and you're like, oh, but it's there's a gap of just these I tell people all the time, the $100,000 house has gone the way of the dinosaur.
Yeah.
I have to raise, the last rehab that we sold at the beginning of 2025, we sold for I think 104. But man, do you know how much money I have to raise to close the gap to be able to sell and it's crazy. And I'm like, that's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
And you realize I sold that one house at the beginning of the year, and I haven't sold another house since. Okay, if that's your model, then okay, get in line.
Right.
And how long do you want to wait in line?
Yeah, and who's going to do that?
Who's going to do that? Because
we're not going to get any partners doing that.
Yes, and so that's part of the part. The second one kind of goes with that. I'm a big culture person. One of our team mantras is language creates culture, and culture trumps strategy every day of the week. Culture is what you teach, tolerate, celebrate, and with that being the case, as you take leadership of the city, what would you like the culture of the council and the staff to be?
I would say 2 things, kind of. One is we say this, we don't do it. And you actually said it earlier. When we can, we have to figure out how to say yes. We love to say no first and then try to figure it out later. And we've got to start leading with yes. But I think the real answer is we got to be more collaborative. And that's a generic bumper sticker. And I think there's got to be some more nuance to what that actually means. It doesn't mean acquiescence. It doesn't mean, I mean, lots of people need to have a voice, but it does mean at some point you have to make decisions because you're going to have different voices telling you different things. And at some point you have to say, you know what? I've heard you all. I think this is the best path. And I'm sorry some of you are going to be upset and some of you aren't. But I did listen, and we did try to weigh the pros and cons because that's just the nature of the beast. I think sometimes people think collaboration means you're just going to do everything everybody said. That's not possible. But we don't really collaborate. We dictate a lot. And part of that is just bureaucracy and government to some degree. But piece of that is also who you have in place and how they're leading that charge. And if they're actually bringing people to the table and actually listening, and then you see policy decisions that you're like, oh, I actually see what people were saying baked into that. Not just they heard us and then they changed absolutely nothing and did what they wanted, which we all told them wasn't going to work in the first place. Yeah. And then 2 years later, we're like, why didn't that work? Because you didn't collaborate with us on the front end. You just did what you wanted. And then you came to us on the back end and said, how are you guys going to help us fix this? Well, we tried that 2 years ago, man. Why didn't you listen to us the first time? Right?
Yeah.
So I think again, I won't say we don't have any of that because that's unfair to some of our staff who do try to do that. But it also takes people at the top saying, that's how, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, and good job, and get out there and keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. And it takes an element of risk. You have to have some room for some stuff to fail. Growing up in an under-resourced neighborhood, single-parent home, I remember going to Kmart with my mom as a kid. Did y'all ever have Kmart?
Yeah, yeah, we had Kmarts, yep.
And Blue Light Special.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember going to Kmart, and my mom would be throwing stuff in the cart, and you was like, yeah, she got me the He-Man belt. But then, instead of going towards the register, she would go toward the back of the store to the layaway department, and I would be like, oh.
You're like, we don't get it today?
No. I'm never going to get it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we never getting that stuff out of layaway.
Yeah.
Like, that, we're never going to see that. Every time the city council says we're going to launch a study, I feel like my mom just took my clothes to layaway again.
And then half the time we don't follow up on our own studies. I mean, if we're going to do them, at least, I mean, I'll tell you right now, some of the stuff we've gotten before, and I've seen this. We've had the expert come in, and then we've got people who instantly discount the stuff they didn't like. Oh, well, I disagree with that. Wait a minute. We just paid them an expert to give us an outsider's perspective on something. And by the way, I think they're right. The fact that you got offended by it or it didn't, get over it, man, because we got to solve the problem. You have to be able to listen and follow through on those. And we're still working on that on the housing study. I mean, we're 5 years into that thing, and we still haven't done half of the stuff in that study. That's a failure on our part, not the study's fault.
But here's the deal, right? So, for instance, with housing, somebody came to me and said, Johnathan, you should have a land trust. It would help with some different things. We have some deed restrictions. We have to have first right of refusal. We have a whole different things in there. And I said, you're right. It would be great for us to have a land trust. And I'm actively researching that. And I'm not willing to stop building houses until I get one started.
Right.
I said, look, my neighborhood has needs right now, so I can't wait on your perfect solution to have a solution. I said, what I have seen is every iteration of what we've done has been better than the last iteration. The first net zero house didn't have a garage. Now we're able to build those for the lowest price that I've heard of out with paid labor. And so I'm like, I'm going to keep doing that iteration method and keep going. And I know I'm going to look at every project I did in the past and see something I hate about it. Yeah. But I'm making progress. Yeah. And so that collaboration piece is like being willing to pilot some stuff. And I think as a city, if we get to that mindset, we'll start closing the gaps faster. The other thing I see is this. Now, let me carry out this. I got debt free by using this system, but I don't think it deals with generational poverty well. Dave Ramsey. The thing in Dave Ramsey that he teaches you is the debt snowball. Yeah. And he says you take money from your that you have left over and you put it on your bill that's closer to be paid off. And then once that's paid off, you combine it and you go to the next one. What I see the city strategy being is this. The housing report said you needed $53 million invested every year for 10 years to close your housing gap. At that point, we were only investing $3 to $5 million a year. So that was going to take a whole solution. but we take all our money and we say we're going to spread it out everywhere.
Right. It dilutes it.
And so we never actually get enough traction in any neighborhood to really kick it off. Because I said my goal is to do this. Is one, to create a neighborhood where somebody can go from unsheltered to being sheltered and never have to leave their support network in the neighborhood. But two, to get it where the city stops writing checks to my neighborhood. I'm trying to eliminate my NIA by turning it into an NA.
Right. Yeah.
I want it to become a neighborhood association, not
so
a
that
neighborhood.
Health map says it's now elevated. So they have to come to you and say, you aren't eligible to be an NIA anymore, which is a good thing. Yeah.
Right. And we've seen it. Our crime has dropped 29% overall since we first started, 21% since in violent crime. Here's the deal. We did have a shooting that happened the Saturday before Thanksgiving. The 30 days previous to that, we had 13 total crimes in the Hi-Crest neighborhood. The two highest times of the day, right after school and when people get off of work. The two highest crime categories, theft, domestic disputes. Why are we doing all the stuff on campus that we're doing, all the prevention stuff, all the after-school programming? Why are we doing all the emotional, mental health, and behavioral stuff in the neighborhood? It's because we have a goal of 100 total crimes for that neighborhood for a whole year. And we already knew those were our two highest categories and our two highest times, and that's what we've been attacking and trying to do preventative methods, right? That doesn't mean that we're still not going to have some of the different things happen, but we're hoping to see it less frequently because we're trying to get out in front of it. And so we have to pilot some of those things like you're saying. I think we go a further distance doing that.
Well, part of that is we shouldn't just do things as a city willy-nilly. So I'll preface it with that.
Yes.
But I do think, to your point, you can't check every box. If you're always trying to check every box, you're never making progress. Sometimes you have to say, we've checked most of the boxes, and we're going to put this in place. And then the good news about local government is I meet 3 times a month, and I can change things. Okay, this isn't working. Fix it. And we get too many people stuck on, I got to check every box before I can vote for this or before I can put it forward. And I'm like, no. We've done the best we can. We're to the point where the only way we're going to know if it's going to work is to pass it, put it out in the world, and then shepherd it along and hope that we can do it the right way.
So because of my engineering and Six Sigma background, SENT is structured like this. We say, one, we want all of our programs to be backpack size. You can carry a backpack and move and pivot a lot easier than with a refrigerator box. Yeah. But 2, our model is to be this: person-centered, data-driven, with dynamic programming on a short feedback loop. The change is a long feedback loop, right? Mm-hmm. To change 15% of the housing in the neighborhood from when we started, that's a longer deal. But we're going to use shorter loops to move toward that. And it's exactly what you said.
Yeah, and that's where people get stuck sometimes. And I get it. It's tough. It's scary. But, if you got relatively competent people trying to get it forward, it's going to be okay. I mean, that's the thing. And as long as you're watching it and not just letting it out in the world without any constraints, that's a problem. But that's not how it is.
Take the data and adjust, right? And apologize when you need to apologize, and then move on from that and say, look, that was wrong. We found out that was wrong. We won't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And we won't do that anymore.
People are afraid to do that too. They get scared about admitting we made a mistake, but we're course correcting.
Yes.
Because they think we've gotten to this day and age, especially with elected folks and people, they're like, I can't admit my mistakes or my faults. And I'm like, no, people want you to, like, that's the path to success, is showing people I'm human. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect, but judge me on how I'm correcting it, not always that the mistake itself. And, because if they're looking for a perfect elected people, good luck. And if you find them, send them our way. I'll take them in city government, but I haven't found them yet. And I'm not that guy. I'll tell you that right now.
That's why people won't run. And that's why, is because we're trying to force somebody into something that we're not ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big piece of it. So last thing, as you think about moving into this stage of your leadership, what do you want your legacy piece to be?
Well, the simple answer is silly, I guess, but it's true. Now, there's more to it than this, but I really hope you're stuck with me for 4 years, whether you want it or not. I tell you, so I hope I can look back 4 years later and say that I've left it better than I found it, right? And again, that's more of that bumper sticker. But I think if you live within that general sense. And every day, what have I done today to make it better? What have I done today to make it better? Versus what have I done today to just keep the lights on? Right? Because that's easy. I can sit in that seat for 4 years and walk out of here 4 years from now and be like, I kept the lights on. Yeah, things better. Okay, but but that's not my goal. My goal is to not just keep the seat warm and keep the lights on. It's to find these problems and move them forward. And so that 4 years from now, we can say things were better today than they were 4 years ago. And so that's the prism. So like I said, that's more of the general. But I think when you take each issue like that and you look at it through, how am I moving this forward? Not just how am I keeping it in place or solvent. It's how am I moving it forward? That's a big difference.
Yeah. The first session of Leadership Kansas for us, they asked us the question, if this is a successful experience, then how will things look at, years from now? And I said, there'll be less nonprofits in Kansas. And everybody kind of stopped. They were like, don't you leave? I'm like, yeah, but if we're doing what we're supposed to do, then there should be less of a need for nonprofits because we've actually solved some causes for which we exist. Yeah. I said the problem is there's too many of us that's looking at sustaining paychecks rather than ending the cause. Yeah. And so one of the things, like when I get to coach another leader or whatever, I ask them, one of the questions I like to ask is, okay, if you were to solve the cause for which you existed right now, what's the next thing you would work on? And if you haven't thought about that, I know that you're not punching, because when they teach boxers how to punch,
right,
to hit somebody in the face, they teach you to punch at the back of their head. And we're not punching at the back of their head. We're trying to punch their face, and the problem is reactive, just like a real human being. And so it's moving before we ever get there. And so you have to be thinking of, what am I going to do next when I get through with this in order to end this thing? And I think that's
and you can't go into every situation. Look, we're not going to end homelessness in Topeka. No, but we can significantly reduce it.
Yes.
Right? We're not going to get rid of poverty, but you know what? We can make a dent over the next 4 years that reduces that number. Mm-hmm. Same with, folks, I'm here to tell you, probably ain't going to fix every single pothole over the next 4 years. But you know what? We can make significant strides in how we fix those potholes, how our road plan looks like to get the roads better and build the infrastructure right. And so I think if you go into some of these problems of saying, we're going to solve this problem, back it up. That's not a realistic goal. What is the realistic goal that improves the situation so that you can move towards where you're getting? And
yes.
I think that's where a lot of leaders get in trouble. They come in like, I'm going to solve this. And you're like, well, that's not actually, technically that's not totally solvable, but you can make it manageable and improve people's lives at the same time.
Even with, they say we are functionally homeless, like have functionally ended. So there's the words are important.
Yeah.
The words are important. And to say hey, something's going to happen all the time. There's going to be this small percentage, but we can move there, right? We should be moving toward the goal rather than saying we're just going to tread water on this.
Because then you get frustrated because you're like, we're not ending this problem. You're like, okay, but that shouldn't be your goal. What's the goal within the goal? And it's like hitting those benchmarks. And then suddenly you wake up one day and you're like, man, it's gotten better. Yeah, because you bit it off as you could do it and move through the process. And so I think that's it too. Keeping not just citizens, not setting unrealistic expectations for citizens, but as you work with staff and council, set goals that are realistic. And then if you can do those two things together, people are going to be a little happier.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this. From the city side, Carrie and her team have been great. When Rhiannon was there, Braxton is in there now. I've worked through. Have we agreed on every point? No. Have they done everything? Have we gotten every? No. But they have worked with me on stuff. When it's come to just if I've had a complaint or something happened, I've been able to reach out to city management, whoever it was. I've had a relationship with every city manager since I've been here. I've gotten help from Monique on different things.
You've had a lot since you've been here.
Yeah, and council members, even council members outside of my district. But part of it has been initiating and saying, I want to partner. I want to sit down and know that and engage in a relationship with you. And I want to try to do things that don't publicly shame you by, if I got a problem, putting it out on social media.
Yeah.
And so there's no city in America that's perfect. I live in the best city.
Yeah. Right.
I just so happen to be doubly blessed that I live in the best neighborhood in that city.
Yeah.
And so I work with the best people. And so I've been able to work with the city of Topeka on the things that I've done with the county, and always moved at the speed I would like to. That's why you are blessed to run for elected office, because y'all move too slow for you.
Right. No, I'm with you. I always tell people, like, what's the number one frustration you have with being in government? I say, things don't move freaking fast enough, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get sometimes you can't, but other times I'm like, really? Took 2 weeks to do that? I could have literally done that in 24 hours if I didn't have these constraints.
Yes.
So it's working within those two and figuring out how we can close those gaps.
Yeah. So,
well, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
It's been great, man.
Yeah.
Glad you did it. So obviously the wife had a good experience. She's like, go ahead, it's fine. He'll be all right. So
yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome back anytime, and people go
Yes.
out there and support SENT. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.